Welcome to Coping with COVID-19. I'm Dr. Allie Sharma, a psychiatrist. This is an interview series and a safe space to collectively cope and share our stories through the COVID-19 pandemic. Quick disclaimer, please note that this interview series is for informational purposes only and it's not considered medical advice. Please consult your own provider for any issues you may be facing. And if you are in crisis, please call 911 or your local emergency services. Today, I'm joined by Michael Angelo. Michael is a friendly neighborhood beauty guru, local artist, and the owner of Wonderland Beauty Parlor in New York City. I'm bringing on Michael to join me now. All right. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Hi. It's so lovely to meet you this way.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. It's kind of crazy how this whole new universe has brought a whole bunch of people together in new different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe these are the unanticipated silver lining or benefits of this time.
I'm a romantic, I'm an optimist. I tend to look for the silver linings. It kind of is what helps get me through uh, tough times all
I,
around.
I think that's great. And I think it's good for other people to hear who may not be feeling so optimistic. So I'd love to start there because I know when we had our pre-chat, you said something that struck me. You said many people perhaps are in distress because they can't come to you to get their hair done, to fix their grays. But
Uh-huh.
you yourself are in distress because of the impact that this pandemic has had on your business and your
Right.
livelihood. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Well, it's interesting because I guess everybody's concerns are, and very naturally and humanly themselves. And I think sometimes we forget to look that extra inch beyond the reach of our arms and remember that everyone's going through it. I saw a T-shirt on the subway that said everybody's going through something, like go easy, and it stuck with me so well. And I think, yeah, like people have approached me with like grave concerns about their regrowth, and I just unemployed my entire team. My business is closed until I don't know when. I have no idea what the state of the economy in New York will be when we get back. I don't know if I'll qualify for unemployment because I'm an employer, and weirdly, I'm in the sort of legal design of my company is such that I'm not a Schedule C employee.
Mm-hmm.
So an S corp, or I'm an LLC partner. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, these nuances are becoming important now.
Yeah, I had a chat with my accountant the other night, and I was trying to do unemployment, and I was like, Lily, like, where do I put? How do I answer? And she said, you can't. And she said, what will probably happen is they'll make these mistakes. Enough people will call in and complain and say, hey, I couldn't do it because I couldn't give the fair and honest answer. And then they'll have to fix it again. So right now I have no income, I have no staff, I have no job, I have no business, and about, I don't know, $20,000 a month in rent due. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and I know you said you're an
Overwhelming.
optimist, but how are you coping with this on a day-to-day basis? What are your fears and anxiety?
So I guess there's so many questions in one question, right? I think that, yeah, I'm an optimist. I really do trust that somewhere, somehow, we'll pull through this. I think that, thank God I live in a great state like New York, where I truly believe our state government will help us get through. I am so lucky that I have a great network of people around me. And I'm very lucky to work with some very wealthy, very influential, very well-connected people that I know if it's the worst 911 I can go to and ask for help. It's humbling, and I never want to owe anybody anything, especially someone that I serve for a living.
Hmm.
But, if it's life and death, you kind of do what you have to do.
Right, but what you're saying
Um,
is that you feel, look, so if you can't get help from the government and you don't have your business, the question is, then what?
so
Right?
explore the options, right? What's at the end of my hands? It's the question I ask myself always when I'm down.
Hmm.
What are the resources I've got right in front of me? Let's start there. I'm a hairdresser by trade and an artist by heart. And the way that I problem solve any creative challenge is to break it down into smaller parts. When I look at a whole head of hair, it's overwhelming. But when I look at the perimeter, the back, the bangs, each little part is manageable. And then it's just, how do I connect it? I think it's like writer's work. And so I think that if we look at these things as like a big creative problem to solve and take off, like I literally took a piece of paper and wrote down, these are my economic struggles, here are my residential business, this is who I borrow money from, this is who I get money from, and kind of tackled each piece one at a time. It was a little less, it's been a little less overwhelming.
So that's actually a really good tip, right? To sort of write it all out, organize yourself, and put it, make it into bite-sized pieces, right, that are manageable. But I know when we spoke, we talked about thinking about other ways of supporting your business, perhaps GoFundMe, Patreon. I don't know if you had a chance to think more about that, or other ways that your business could be directly supported in this time.
Yep. I've done a Kickstarter in the past, and I've done benefits in the past to raise money for others. I've raised money for trafficking survivors in Southeast Asia. I've raised money for beauty programs to help get people out of tough situations. Like I know how to raise money. It's so weird to ask for it for myself.
Yeah.
The thing I'm inclined to do is some kind of benefit. I am an artist, I'm a decent photographer, and once in a while I have good luck with my photography and I'm able to sell it. I think that maybe if I curated a few pieces and let people know that there's a trade, there's an exchange, I don't feel quite so much like it's handout. It's kind of where my heart's leaning right now.
Yeah. Okay.
What can I do for the money?
Yeah. Well, so keep us posted on, how people who are listening can help. So yes.
My social media channels are, my personal is at M_R_Angelo, and business is at Wonderland Beauty Parlor. And I think that that's the place that I'll be communicating outwardly about what people can do to help in the sort of bigger ways that'll take a little longer to figure out. In the shorter time on our website, I've forged some great affiliate relationships with our retail partners. So companies like Mora and Orbay have come forward and said that they can help ship product to our people. They pay us as a salon for making the introduction and the recommendation, and then they kind of handle all the back end. So that's really nice to see they've been able to figure out how to make something work that I think's honestly going to change the industry. It's something I've said for a long time needs to happen. There's a lot of good change that'll come of this.
Exactly. And I think people are being creative and innovative because we have to be, right?
Yeah.
So just to switch gears a little bit, can you tell us a little bit, for you personally, what the experience of social distancing has been like?
Well, my God, what I do for a living involves literal hands-on hair.
Right.
So as we were first beginning to understand what was happening, there was no real guidance directed toward the beauty industry. There's not a governing body for our industry. And they talked a lot about restaurants, they talked about hotels, they talked about retail, but they didn't talk about the beauty industry, salons, spas, manicurists, people who are really, dermatologists,
right?
People who are really high touch for a living. We should have been told to stay home. We were left to our own devices, and what I decided for my company was to shut down about a week before the state mandated it. I based my judgment on what bigger companies that had more money in my industry were doing. I trusted that they had better legal and HR resources to help recommend. So I tried to follow the lead of companies like Bumble and Bumble, who's owned by Lauder. And I trusted that the corporate structure at Lauder was probably better equipped to decide what to do than I was.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, you followed the lead of those you trust. What would have helped, do you think, that you didn't have to make these decisions and judgment calls?
Well, I think the city kind of mandating it so we're not in the awful position of people saying, I'll give you cash, meet me on the corner, right. Where you're sort of left going, do I do what I think is right? Do I take care of my customer? It was a really hard arc. And I worked that week with 3 people that I would consider relatively vulnerable. And I thought, my God, like, what if I've called and checked in with them and thank God everyone's okay. But I really thought, like, what if I exposed somebody to something that cost their life or the life of someone they love? It's just not worth it for hair.
No, so you took the responsibility that you feel like you needed to.
Yeah, I did. I really did. And I'm proud of myself for that. I unemployed my entire team because I didn't have any money coming in and way to pay them. And I think that was a really responsible choice. I'm proud of myself for that. And then I sat down and started figuring out what my bookkeeper had been doing, because I had to obviously let that go as well. And
Mm.
honestly, I've been oblivious. I have spent the past month in quarantine taking a crash course in my business self and life.
And how has that been for you?
Eye-opening, a little bit scary, but weirdly, um, less scary than I thought, because, right, aren't the demons in our imagination so much worse?
Right. Probably good to know the nuts and bolts of your business anyway.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm proud of myself. I think, you know what? I run a tighter ship than I realized. I always think it's a shit show. And then I look at how others operate, and, I was able to tell the government exactly what money we lost during that period last year because I knew how to run those reports and I keep a clean book. I am a law abiding, tax paying citizen. And because of that, I was able to jump right in and say, here's what I need, here's what I lost, here's my role. And, I'm proud of that.
Okay, so final question.
Yeah.
For others who are in your industry, salon owners, people who work in salons, what is your advice to them or any tips from your experience that you've been describing?
Well, look, I think first and foremost, the thing I've had to work extra hard on is to stay calm and centered. I've been doing a meditation every morning, followed by a reading from a book of 365 days of good thoughts. And I go to sleep at night with like babbling brooks and birds chirping. I take my time getting up. Um, I put limits on the hours that I work. And yeah, I've bent the rules a little bit, but more or less I've been, you know, trying to keep it organized and sane. I'm trying to trust that things will work out without being oblivious. I can't let myself run too far down paths of disaster.
Mm.
But I think it's always, someone told me this a million years ago, and I've always kept it close. She said, honey, you always have to have a plan B. And I would recommend keeping a plan C there too.
Yes, agreed. So, Michael, thank you so much for taking
It's
the
my
time.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's get clinical. You heard in the interview that Michael is an optimist alongside all of the financial odds against him. Even after he had to close his business, he still has rent to pay and no money is coming in. And yet, like he tackles a challenging head of hair, he found some relief in his stress around his worries by writing out the various areas that are challenged now and tackling them one by one. He also sees value in being creative right now through brand partnerships and other means to keep his business going. All of this is important to call out because rather than go down a path where he focuses on the worst case scenario and doom and gloom, which many people are feeling, he's managing to focus on what resources he has with a positive outlook and hope for the future. This interview was extremely important for me to conduct because there are some professions like mine which are still viable remotely, but there are many others who are in a similar situation as Michael, and we need to band together for support and hear people's stories. I'm Dr. Allie Sharma. Thank you for watching Coping with COVID-19.